Hello, welcome everyone. This is Jung. My name is Jung Wing Wan, and I am here hosting the uh, debut event of Conversations on Communication Mastery. I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this event today. It's quite an experience, a bit of an adventure, I have to say, and I myself am a coach. I coach people, leaders, corporate leaders to become, to become better communicators, people who can communicate with confidence. And I want to see as well, I have some guests who are with us and hopefully they are online. Today is a bit of an experiment as it's the first time I've been using this particular platform. And just want to check as well that everyone is on. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So just want to check who is on. So, okay. So 1 second. I'm just going to get, they should have a link. Okay. Got a technical problem here. My apologies. There's this is the first time I've used this particular platform for streaming, so invariably there's going to be a few of these technical challenges that will come up. So I was just going to wait as we're waiting for our my guests to join us today. What we to expect? So, okay, apologies. Just bear with me, please. Okay. This is obviously something that happens when there's a technology issue, or rather, it doesn't seem to be linking properly. Okay. Okay, so you still wait for a few moments for those for our for my guests to join. Apologies, this happens. This is partly as well a bit of a uh, test to basically work with what we have. Anyway, what is communication mastery? I picked this as a something that I wanted to explore. You see, communication is fundamental to the way we lead it's fundamental to our basically the way that we show up, our leadership, the way we help others, the way we connect. I think it's fundamentally very important, and it's fundamentally very important. Hi, Martin. Welcome. Apologies for the little challenges with coming on here. We're sort of learning how to do this. Okay, trying to manage a few different things. So basically, I've just started to. Martin is one of my guests, Martin Samarad, who is a coach in communication. And thank you for joining us, Martin. Really appreciate that. Thank you for bearing with us with the technology. And we have as well, we have Thomas join us. Thomas Ford. Thank you for your patience. I know there was a bit of a few things, but learning how to use this platform. So thank you for joining us.
Hopefully, hold on. I'll speak.
Yeah, we can hear
you now. Okay.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, thank you for bearing us. This is interesting. The number of things that we had before we got to this call is quite amazing. So this is something to learn as when we are online, when we're presenting, there's all sorts of mishaps that can obviously happen. But hey, we learn from the experiences, right? So just starting off, just basically talking about communication mastery, and wanted to use this particular event we have today just to sort of have a little exploration of what is communication mastery. And something I used to say as well, that as a coach in communication, for the communication, the mastery of it, I'm not saying that I am a master. I am indeed wanting to become more masterful in the art of communication. Be it in the way I help my clients, in their corporate clients, corporate leaders, to help them to communicate with more confidence. And so it's about becoming more and more masterful, making improvements. But the thing is, communication is not just about learning a technique, how to be more confident, for example, in our posture, but it really is, it's the person within. Because it doesn't matter how good your communication skills are, but if you have difficulty in terms of being able to communicate, then that's obviously a struggle. Actually, as I'm thinking now, it may be that we're problems with other people joining this particular session as well. So give me a second. I just want to see if I can, because if you're having difficulties joining the call today. Okay. So it is being streamed. Hang on a second. Okay, great. So obviously something we're learning here. I'd like to, I'm very honored to have Martin Samarad and Thomas Vitorka with us today. Thank you for joining in this little adventure of exploring not just the technology here, but particularly as well the conversations that we're having on communication mastery. And I'd like to maybe invite you to introduce yourselves. Martin, you can start us off to just tell us who you are and what you do as a coach.
All right, thank you very much for having me. So, as mentioned, I'm a coach. I specialize in communication, but not only communication, but I also enjoy helping people with their long-term goals and going for them. So that's my main hobbies in coaching, if I can put it this way. And also I'm working in marketing. So I have background in marketing and I do communication and long-term goals. And I'm from Czech Republic, which I'm joining you right now from.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you, Martin, for the introduction. Welcome. Thomas, over to you.
So my name is Thomas Vitorka. I am a life and performance coach. I'm also a business and sales mentor. I specialize in working with ambitious professionals and entrepreneurs, helping them maximize their performance, be more confident and effective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for that. Thank you, Martin. So I think it's very amazing, interesting that the communication as a topic, I'm genuinely very interested in it because I have been learning for all this time about how to be a better communicator. Even times I didn't know, even have the confidence to be able to speak up, to be able to, even convey an idea that was very simple, and it all rooted in communication. And I think if we are leaders, we have to be able to communicate effectively, and one particular skill I would say that is absolutely essential is the ability, I think, to listen. And I don't mean just using the ears to hear, but it's really, I think, using our senses, all the senses available to us, the whole body, the eyes, our sense of sight, our feeling of the emotions of the other person, all that are very key. Let me ask you, each of you in turn, what your reflections in terms of what communication brings to mind for you as you work with your clients. Thomas, you can start us off.
Well, for us as coaches, I think communication is everything. That's the channel through which we make change and difference in people's lives. And I've been coaching now for over 10 years and studying personal development for many years before that. I think the longer I coach, the more I appreciate how important communication is. And communication is not just about talking and listening. As with anything, the longer you spend time with something, you start noticing and appreciating the nuances in whether it's a craft or knowledge. And for me, when I speak or communicate with my clients, over the years you develop this kind of acuity to listen for the tone of how they say things, you're paying attention to the words they're choosing to describe something, and it can tell you so much. You can read sort of so much between the lines, where it's helping you understand how they think, how they feel, what their blind spots may be, what they're trying to say, what they're trying to hide. And communication is, and of course, one part of it is what is coming at you, what they're trying to communicate. So we're trying to pay attention to that and understand what they're saying, but also making sure that what you communicating is being understood. I've learned a long time ago that there are 3 levels of clarity in communication. The first one is to make sure that you're clear, that you understand what the person is saying. The second level of clarity is to make sure that they are clear and understand what you are saying. And the third level of clarity is that you are clear, that you understand, that they understand what you're trying to say and what's being communicated. And so we all know that, I'm sure it happened to all of us, that sometimes we try to say something, we choose not in the wrong words, but just like not the right words. And there's a fire on the roof, whether it's in personal relationships or whether it could be, in corporate setting, in a meeting, you say things maybe not quite the right way, and it could be misunderstood or could be kind of used in the wrong way. So I think learning how to appreciate communication and understand communication and develop communication is such a critical skill for anybody who wants to be effective in life, frankly, whether it's personal or professional relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thomas, for that. I love these sort of 3 levels of clarity that you talk about there. That's actually essential, and I certainly resonate with that. And Martin, you were nodding as well. What perspective do you have to share?
I couldn't agree more to all what you said, that there is one thing that I approach communication as well, or one point of view that I also have, that I found out that it's super important for me and for people that I'm teaching communication, is how you approach the person and how you approach the communication. So if you come into the communication and you only want to present yourself, or you only are following some goal, then you shut to what the person is communicating with you, or you are not able to comprehend the wholeness of the conversation if you only have your mind set on something. So for me, being open and trying to understand the person that's in front of me, and having maybe even the gratitude to be with the person in there, helps me enormously to understand the person, and as Thomas said, to be able to feel the slight nuances in the tonality, in what they are trying to what they are trying to say, or what are they trying to hide. It's, for me, it's how do I approach it, and what's set in my mind that I want to get out of that conversation. So being open and being understanding what the person is about, who is that, and
Yes, yeah, that's very powerful what you just shared there, Martin. Thank you for that. I think I resonate with that. I think the understanding aspect, it's not just I to understand them, but actually more important, I think there's an intention. I think for me, I think it's a case of the intention to want to understand, but not in a way like, oh, look, I want to understand, but it's more of like just taking it all in and being really present. So not like driven by an ego as such, but just like, look, I'm connecting. I want to understand. I may not understand everything, but I'd like to be as real as possible with that person. And this could be as well, I think, within a one-to-one conversation. It could be one to a few, like in this situation here, or it could be one to many. If you know, you speak into it, doing public speaking, you speak into a group of people, whether virtually or on stage or whatever. I think there's something to be said about being able to having that intention to communicate. You know, people talk about authenticity, right? But being able to connect and be real with everyone, because the moment when, let's say, you put on an act, even for a moment, people can, see it, but also they can feel it, right? Yeah. Any thoughts to add as well, further to that? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And in terms of the work that, let's say, we as coaches work with our clients, I mean, particularly those who are maybe in the lead organizations. I'd like to return the topic. What is a key challenge that these people encounter, right, within their work? And often, maybe work with yourselves as coaches, work with us as coaches. What is a key challenge? And I think one particular challenge I would say that I've encountered with the people I work with is, on the surface, it's things like decision making, right? I mean, how to make a decision, but also how to explain that decision and communicate that decision. And sometimes, just because often, how often is it some of my clients, they say, oh, a decision has been made by others. They feel powerless to actually influence the outcome, or indeed to provide any, to input to that decision being made. And then the communication of that decision is here. Decision has been made. This is what you're going to get. This is what's happening. And I think that is often where people feel, well, hang on, what just happened? This is affecting me. Well, as these leaders, these people, particularly those who are in middle management, maybe they've got people who, they've got this C-suite there maybe, and then they've got people, their teams below to manage. And being that middle is a very challenging space to manage the communication, particularly when there are communications or messages that come to these viewers, these leaders who, and they feel powerless, and they don't know how to communicate it properly to say and influence that communication. Quite a complicated area from the experience I've actually seen. But what about yourselves to share? Thomas? Yeah.
So I have a profound insight for you, which is not so profound, but what I've learned is, as kind of contrary to what I've said earlier, where there's so many nuances to communication that you can learn and use to be more effective communicator. I actually find that the most common error in communication is that people don't communicate. And I always, whether it's a relationship thing or whether it's a work dynamic, a work relationship issue, the first advice or rule I have for people is to over communicate, because you guys probably know this from working with your clients. I know this from working with my clients, but also I know it with my clients, with their experience, with their either with themselves or with their like a team, is that as most people are keen to talk when things are going well. Let me give you the updates, and we double the sales, and of course we want, it's easy to share the good news. But when things get tough, when there is some kind of friction, problem, misunderstanding, irritation, a gossip, you name it, what most people do is that they shut down, especially if they need help or if they're struggling with something. And I know this when I don't hear from my clients, when I know that I should have, or even when my clients tell me what their team is kind of holding back, not communicating. It's usually when things are not going well. Yes, some people are just really good at putting their head down and working through things and so on. But so many things could be resolved. So many problems could be resolved and prevented just by communicating or even over communicating. Because the issue with lack of communication is that we allow too much space for imagination. Because we as humans, we need to kind of understand the narrative, understand the issue, understand what's going on. And if we don't have the information, we fill them in with their imagination, which is usually more on the catastrophic side and more on the negative side. So we, horror stories, and people are out there to get us, and the boss is plotting against us, the team is lazy, they don't care, they don't respect me, whatever we can make up. Where if leaders are watching this, or anyone who is, people in a relationship, encourage communication. Make sure that it's understood, and it's understood that it's welcomed, that it's a way to resolve things, that people are not going to be bothered by you communicating, other people's communicating. Just establishing free communication channels and welcome communication channels can prevent so much. And I know that this sounds so simple, but anybody who is listening to this, they can probably think of quite a few examples, or maybe the situation at work where the communication is just not as good as it should be. And so even for corporate setting, establishing regular meetings that are or segments in regular meetings that are just, hey, okay, now let's bring up the things that people want to say, what's working, what's not working, and so on. Having some kind of agenda or structure for those meetings.
Yeah, that's a powerful share. Yeah, very, very powerful. Thank you, Thomas, for that. Yeah, when you're speaking, you brought to my, well, I had in my mind, there was a particular quote which I absolutely love from George Bernard Shaw, and something goes along the lines of, the biggest illusion with communication is that it took place, or something to those thoughts, right? Sometimes we think, we communicate, we already told it, but then we have, just because we had that conversation in our head thinking, we communicated, doesn't mean that we necessarily did communicate. and nobody is actually able to read minds that effectively, right? So that's a very powerful thing to do.
Nice one.
Martin, thank you, Thomas. Martin.
I love the idea of over communication at the home setting, even at work setting, because as Thomas said, people usually shut down when something's wrong. And the idea of over communication might be overwhelming for someone, maybe not to overwhelm the other person, that I'm telling everything for 2, 3, 4 times. But the idea that we shut down when something's wrong. So over communicating at that moment means communicating in normal frequency. So for me, doing this step out of the comfort zone when something's wrong is super important. I'm talking from my experience at the moment, because at the company we have this policy of being open, not being judgmental, and having this free communication channel. And it's awesome, because you feel safe and you feel that you can tell everything, and you can find with your supervisor, you can find the way how to solve it. And I'm going to the idea that no judgment space is super important as well. And people usually are not very good at not being judgmental. We all think of ourselves that we are judgment free and we are not judging anyone, but when really get to that, you find out that many people are very judgmental, and they just don't know that they are judgmental. So that's something quite hard to communicate, but I feel that creating that not judgmental place and open communication channels are two super important things to work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
I think that's a very powerful thing. Thank you, Martin, for that. Yeah. And I was thinking as well that, to what you said about no judgment, it's one thing as well to certainly not judge other people, but we can be very harsh judges of ourselves. And if we are harsh judges of ourselves, then that's going to affect our ability to communicate, right? I mean, but then it's absolutely important to, I think, to be aware of how we are, but to judge ourselves, and even though we're not judging other people, we're trying not to judge other people, it also can hamper this ability to communicate. I think that's a very powerful thing. I want to see if there's any questions that are from our people who are on joining, and I'm going to just nip over to have a look to see if there's anything there. Give me a second. As I say, technology permitting. Let's see. I don't see there's anything right now. Okay. Okay, I can't see anything just now in terms of any questions right now. Okay, great. So I'd just like to maybe finish off here and by saying, I think communication is clearly a huge topic, and we've only just spent the best part of half an hour or so just dipping into it and just exploring just some of the things that come to mind as we're speaking. But clearly this is a topic that is not just of interest, but I think is hugely powerful in being able to refine, to become aware of, and because if we can communicate more effectively as leaders, we can help people, we can connect with people, we can help them develop, we can share news, we can have those difficult conversations, as well as share great news, right? All these different things, I think it's hugely important, whether you're a leader in a company, whether you are an entrepreneur, you are working with customers, clients. I think that's hugely important. And as well, don't forget as well, our people in our own personal lives, our family, and the people that we come across in everyday life. I'd like to, I think, conclude here and then really thank yourself, Martin and Thomas, for joining on this little exploratory conversation, and with the trials that we've experienced with the technology. And I'm going to be real, and I'm going to talk about this particular experience. I have, this is all part of a learning journey, and I think there's been great, certainly to the point that you've shared some amazing insights on communication from your standpoint, and I think this is something that certainly great to continue at some point. So for those of you who are watching, maybe interested in the work that we do, then there's obviously, we can all be found on LinkedIn. Both Martin and Thomas are on LinkedIn. I'll share their details on the LinkedIn event details there. So I'll thank you for everyone for joining in. I hope that there were some useful insights that you can take on and reflect on your journey to become more effective communicators. And with the technology permitting, we'll see you next time. See you soon. Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Thomas. Bye.
Take care.
For having me. Take care.